right. Thank you very much. And good day, everyone. Welcome to DAM Industry Week. And today is on financial services and insurance. My name is John Horodisky, and I will be your conference chair and moderator for many of the sessions today. So to begin with, as a brief introduction, I just wanted to let you know that I'm a managing director with Salt Flats, managing the insights and analytics practice. I've been doing digital asset management work for over 20 years now, everything from DAM and metadata and taxonomy and governance and MarTech. I'm also an adjunct faculty member at San Jose State University, where I teach a graduate course in digital asset management. I've had many interesting clients from all sectors: financial services, insurance, consumer goods, media and entertainment, pharma, all great things dealing with digital asset management. In addition to a lot of public speaking, very much associated with the Henry Stewart Events organization. I am a board member at the Journal of Digital Media Management. I write a monthly column for CMS Wire. I wrote a book a few years ago on digital asset management, and I have a new book coming out later this fall on metadata. So before we get started, I just want to sort of run through what the day is going to look like. So we are gonna, after I speak, we're gonna go right into the keynote with Liberty Mutual Insurance. We're going to have a tech lab on going beyond personalization in financial services. We're then going to have Cigna's evolution to content personalization. And then we move right into a birds of a feather networking lounge. Will be fun to socialize and get to know some of our fellow colleagues. We're then going to move into a panel on ensuring a secure future for your DAN. And then lastly, we're going to go into sort of fireside chats with Pacific Life Insurance to talk about choosing the right path and staying on track. And then to end off the day, a wonderful after party at the Network Lounge. So before we get started, I just wanted to share a few slides on some of the things that I've learned over the past year. And this quote was a great inspiration for me back in 2020. And it's from the poet Leslie Dwight. And she says, so what if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year we finally accept the need for change. Now, this was very inspirational for me, and we know that this has been an interesting time for the world and our business and the things we do. So what we learned from that is that change is everywhere. We see change everywhere in all the things that we do. We know that this affects both our people and our processes and our technology that we interact with. But why do we actually change? Well, we change for three good things. One, we change in order to advance forward. We change to make ourselves stronger. And we also change to adapt to new situations. And without change, there would be sort of no improvements. As many of us begin to see future recovery coming, I too look to the horizon and know that there are better days coming. It may not be today, or it may be tomorrow, but recovery is happening. And I have learned a lot about business during these times, and I wanted to share a few of those things with you. So the first thing I learned is, well, our teams and our coworkers matter more than we realized. We know that more than ever, there really is no I in teamwork, of course. Collaboration will always be better than separation, and preparation will always be better than hesitancy or the reluctance to change. In fact, new research shows that leaders are needing to support key aspects of teamwork, such as the coordination of expertise and communication, which has powerful impacts on our teamwork. And it's also good to be flexible in our business strategy and recognize the well-being of the individual as well as our team dynamics. Be thankful for what you have and develop trust in our people, our information, and the technology for which it all supports. Teamwork may be the best medicine of all. So the second thing I learned is that improvement is not necessarily indulgence. When you consider the changes as either improvement or an upgrade or even modernization, any effort is holistic by design, encompassing all aspects of business. I have witnessed many a business take this past year to focus on improving all aspects of their business. That affects people, process, and technology. And as people left the office buildings to work in remote settings, technology and access to key systems became critical for many, Improvement for all is a good thing. And on a personal level, feel free to cut yourself some slack. Working from home, sometimes in pajamas, that's okay. Self-care has great positive incomes, and improvements is a benefit to everyone. Just always remember, when you're on your Zoom calls, wear pants. It's just a very good thing to do. The third thing I learned, be prepared. Now, in business, we always aspire for stability, but we need to be prepared for the opposite. This is all about both insurance and investment. The notion of having a good offense is the best defense is aimed at the avoidance of mistakes or losses with protective measures in challenging times. This is all about the role of governance and good governance, and having the framework to ensure that program goals are being met both during the present as well for the future. Governance is the best way to manage and mitigate your risk. My advice to you is never forget to listen to your users. Keep up to date and aware of all your digital assets, and leverage good documentation, reporting, and analytics to help you learn, grow, and be prepared. If you are not measuring, then you are not questioning, and then you are truly not learning. The next thing I learned is work is remote, and it's here to stay. One of the major impacts of remote working is that more jobs are becoming non-location specific, and flexibility is going to be the key going forward. As we know now, what can be done remotely, we must continue to push for more access to content via good technology. And in fact, new research from Wharton University shows that productivity has not only remained stable during the pandemic, but it has actually increased in many organizations. So remote works. And the last thing I learned from the last year has been there will always be recovery. Invest in your DAM. The opportunity is in front of us all, and it's quite clear to invest in the effort and be part of the positive power of change. The benefits of DAM are within your reach, and you can dedicate this investment, this effort, in your people, your process, and your technology. So in summary, as the great New York Yankee Yogi Berra once said, the future ain't what it used to be. And yes, it is a little difficult to predict the future accurately and what disruption might lie ahead of us, but you can certainly shape it if you're willing to think and act differently and be part of the change. DAM will help accelerate the conversation between the business and the consumer, and to deliver good quality content when, where, and how it's needed. And as we look to a brighter future with recovery on the horizon, the question I have for you all today, as we begin this great sessions on financial services and insurance, the question I give to you is, what have you learned and what future are you working towards? So with that, a few keynotes before we get into the keynote presentation from Liberty Mutual is, throughout this week, we've heard from great experts at Yale, Disney, Paramount Studios, the National Football League, General Mills, and many more. If you would like to catch up on any of the past sessions, you can always view those recordings on the Agenda tab. And don't forget to click on the Exhibition tab throughout the event to check out sponsor booths and even have a chance of winning some great prizes. Also, take a look at the Competitions tab, where you can win free access to one of Henry Stewart's online educational courses, which is awesome, and the community feed, where you can post questions and polls for all attendees. Now, during the sessions, we highly encourage you to interact and to chat with fellow attendees, and of course, most importantly, make sure that you are asking questions for our expert lineup. So make sure that you navigate to the right hand of your screen and start asking those questions. We love to see that interaction with our panelists and our speakers to have that really sort of high level of engagement. And if at any point during the event, you need any assistance from the Henry Stewart team, then please use the chat bot on the bottom right hand of your screen. And with that, I would now like to say a big welcome to Michael LaBerge from Liberty Mutual Insurance, who will be giving the keynote address for our session today. So hello and welcome to Michael.
Thanks, John. Really appreciate that. I've been really looking forward to presenting. So thank you so much for inviting me here to speak today about our journey to the dam. Um, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone in attendance today. Thank you for thank you for joining. I've always found these events to be a great way to gather information from other groups dealing with similar challenges and opportunities, right? And it'll be really great once we're able to safely have these events and conversations in person again. But this will have to do for now. Okay, so first off, as you know by now, my name is Michael LaBerge. I head up the strategic operations team within Liberty Mutual's in-house creative agency, Copper Giants. I've been with the insurance industry for almost 21 years now. The first half was in the product, underwriting, and pricing realm. In the last 10 years or so, I've been in the marketing and the creative arena. Now, before I jump into my slides, I wanted to quickly set expectations on my talking points here today. We are still very much in the middle of our journey towards our ideal state enterprise dam. The decisions we've made and efforts we've put forth so far align with our makeup and maturity in the space. I'm sure some of you will have similar experiences and others will be taking an entirely different approach. That said, I sincerely hope you're able to glean some insights from what I'm able to share here today and apply that to whatever part of the journey that you're on. For those of you who don't know and haven't seen us on whatever device you use to consume media, Liberty Mutual has been offering personal and commercial insurance products for over 100 years. We're a Fortune 100 company with over 45,000 employees in 29 countries and economies around the world. And as I mentioned, I've been fortunate enough to have been at Liberty for the last 21 years in different capacities, the most recent within Copper Giants. Copper Giants is Liberty Mutual's in-house creative agency supporting personal lines products, and about 80% of all creative work that's in that market today. My role within Copper Giants is helping to drive the agency towards operational excellence and set us up so we can evolve and support new opportunities down the road. My team partners closely with both our immediate group and with our business partners and stakeholders across the entire company. Our operational philosophy, like John was mentioning this earlier, is focused on the delicate relationship between the three key pillars of people, process, and technology. Well, we ensure that we're taking all three areas into consideration anytime we're planning for and introducing change. And it goes without saying, but change comes in all forms, right? Change you can control, like perhaps you need to implement or upgrade a new work management tool, and change you can't control, like needing to shift to 100% remote environment during a global pandemic. Well, we recognize the change in one of these areas impacts the other two. I'll dive further into this later on, but I really just wanted to mention it up front because it's really key to our mindset of how we started our journey towards our dam. So first, let me provide some background context about our group Copper Giants and kind of how we've evolved our makeup and our operations over time. Copper Giants is set up similar to a traditional agency with many of the key roles, but we run lean. We take advantage of our proximity to the business. We're a full service agency with a combination of full-time and contracted staff. So we're nimble. And we deliver on all types of content, including working with our marketing partners and agency of record to expand our national campaigns beyond just TV. Here's a quick overview of our capabilities. We support some of these areas more than others based off of volume need and historical capability limitations. However, we're always adding to what we're able to support based on an approach of recruiting industry professionals with a broad range of experience across almost every type of discipline. But of course, we didn't get here overnight. It took a long time fighting through some typical growing pains, right? We were a startup in a way, and we kind of still feel like that in some regards today, but that keeps us on our toes with an open mind, which allows us to continually evolve. A little over 10 years ago, before I joined, the team was much smaller, maybe a handful, half dozen folks. The team had just been decentralized from a group at the corporate services level. They had been in a group of what ended up being multiple teams strategically placed to provide local support to the separate business units. Their focus was ensuring the sales channel was supported and ultimately resulted in some expense savings. At that time, the portfolio consisted primarily of printed materials like flyers and brochures, posters and desktops. But as you can see here on the slide, after a slow beginning, the team began to blossom by growing capabilities, taking on different types of work, and shifting operating models. Now, I'm not going to walk through every single step of this evolution, but the important takeaway here is that as we were growing and changing, the amount of content created year over year was following an exponential curve. And it wasn't just us. This held true for all the other marketing and creative groups across the company. Okay, so let's fast forward here. As I referenced previously, we're now a full service agency supporting a good portion of the creative content you see in marketing today, or in market today, for our personalized products here in the US, right? And 2019, that was sort of a tipping point for us. Lots of growth and success that we're proud of. Of important note, we introduced our new identity, Copper Giants, earlier that year. We've continued that momentum, and it's shown in some of the new work we've been supporting. Examples of that include developing most of the digital and social content for our various national TV campaigns like Limu and Doug, which I'm sure you've seen. We also created a series of successful YouTube videos that were centered around people singing our jingle during karaoke sessions. The team really had fun with that one. And starting this year, we've insourced a portion of our broadcast work that we'll be supporting. So our support reach and content development has been on the rise. And to do that, we needed a strong infrastructure to support it. We've introduced some very strong pieces for sure, but we know it's not good enough to stop there. That's because the increased content that we've seen and we've been experiencing is also being seen across our peer groups, and not just here in the US. We've expanded our global footprint as well. We need to easily access shared brand assets and continually evolve our governance and content management practices surrounding them. So we asked ourselves, is our current infrastructure sufficient enough to do that? Our POV, well, it was that it required a further look. We needed to partner with the other marketing and creative groups across the company and explore if there's an appetite to centralize our approach. How did we end up deciding if this was a good idea? Well, our first step was to rally the troops, and we needed a rallying cry, or more accurately, multiple. We began talking with as many people across the organization who would listen to us, and we focused on the following areas that we had hypothesized were key challenges for them, just like us. So the first, that was accessibility. So question for everyone, do your project managers, producers, or even members of your leadership team receive multiple requests for assets from other parts of the company? I'm guessing some of you will answer yes to this. Across our larger department, we were receiving several requests a week unrelated to our active work. Now, this on the surface may not seem like a lot, but each request shifted one or multiple people's focus from what they were currently doing. A couple of years ago, I was amazed to find out that only 39% of knowledge workers' time is spent on their primary duties. That means that about 60% of time is wasted trying to find information within and across silos. It's astonishing. This, along with other research we conducted related to how work gets done, was our jumping off point. Based on our experience of receiving random requests, it became very clear our assets weren't easily accessible to those parties who needed them to do their work. Also, our assets across the company were managed in a decentralized manner. What I'm showing here is just an example of some of the silos where our assets lived. And it would be a huge miss at this point if I didn't give props to our teams across the entire company who partner closely to ensure proper coordination, use, storage, cataloging of all of them. It says a lot about how our teams stay connected and work together towards a common goal. That being said, one clear motivating factor for us and our partners was that this model didn't provide a clean and efficient connection with the various marketing tech being used. Not to mention the pathways for sharing creative files with our partners like agencies and production vendors. Could we get by without it? Yeah, probably. But how will that model work at scale? I'm sure at some point it would start to feel like we're driving a car with one flat tire. For us, the need to ensure scalability was on our doorstep. These are just a few examples of the huge portfolio of work we've launched since about 2018. This wasn't unique to our group either. Speaking with our peer teams, this was being seen across the board, and we don't anticipate that slowing down anytime soon. We also asked everyone how they could benefit from having a centralized platform. And how about a standard operating procedure for storing and managing assets? Instead of us each having a model similar to what you see here. Well, the consensus was that we could reduce the time needed to maintain and update each system. We could limit the amount of duplicate effort required to manage a single asset across multiple locations, and we could more easily identify users and increase access to those who needed it. And finally, we could connect our technology to simplify how content is shared within delivery systems. Well, this was widely seen as a positive step forward and allowed us to achieve the right level of support across the organization to move ahead. Enough so that it made sense to start exploring potential solutions for a centralized digital asset management tool to support all marketing and creative teams. And based off the conversations we had, we were able to pull together an aligned set of goals. As I mentioned previously, since the group sit in different areas of the company, we each had unique primary needs. For example, one of the main goals within Copper Giants was scalability due to the increase in content needs across multiple channels within our business unit. Well, our corporate brand group, well, they were looking to enhance their existing platform to allow for easier access to brand assets to ensure a single source of truth across multiple business units and markets all over the world. And of course, everyone wanted a tool that we could grow into. So we needed something more than just a static filing cabinet, right? So I want to quickly pause here before jumping into this next section, because I wanted to reinforce how important that last section really was. Gaining alignment across the company took more effort than we initially anticipated, but it was well worth it, especially in a company the size of ours. It may seem obvious, but if you're looking to start your journey to a dam, I would recommend planning for enough focus on alignment up front and putting the proper weight and resources behind it, which, not so coincidentally, brings me to our next step in the journey. It was time to begin searching for a tool that could accomplish all of this. And first, we acknowledged we needed an infrastructure that could support what we envisioned the future state looking like. In our group, as well as with our partner groups, the responsibility of managing assets traditionally fell with project managers, with producers, and studio. Our marketing team were key partners as well, don't get me wrong there, but especially when it came to archiving materials for compliance purposes. However, it was becoming clear that this responsibility couldn't be just part of someone's role. We needed greater focus as we ventured into our future state. That's when we partnered closely with our marketing teams to pull together a business case in support of creating a role primarily focused on DAM activities. I can tell you pretty certainly that we wouldn't be where we are in our journey today if it wasn't for this. So a huge kudos go out to Katrina Costancio for all her work and coordination on this so far. I can't see her in this audience, obviously, but I'm pretty sure she's out there. Okay, so this section right here may seem duplicative of that strategy alignment mind shift I was talking about earlier, but I promise you it's not. That was a 60,000-foot view or strategic business case that we needed in order to get buy-in from our leadership group. While this effort, this was closer to the ground, focused on execution level considerations and functionality alignment. To do this, we created a cross-enterprise working team and governance committee, along with key contacts in our support channels like IT, procurement, and compliance. This required engagement from 10 or so functional groups across the enterprise, including several groups sitting within multiple business units, our enterprise brand and creative group, as well as our corporate archives team. We also had to take into consideration multiple external factors like our agency partners and vendors, all their technology being used, and of course, our regulatory environment. As a subsequent step to aligning on true north that I was mentioning earlier, having these more detailed discussions allowed us to collectively generate a robust set of business needs requirements to share with our potential vendors. All right, so discovery, right? This is where things really get interesting. I'm sure most of you know how hard it is to select a tech vendor, right? Well, have you looked at all the MarTech landscape reviews people have published lately? A splattering of thousands of tools and vendors. It's a lot. It can be a beast. I can tell you, it felt very overwhelming to me at the beginning for sure. So good thing we had Katrina on board. But the beauty of conferences like this is the wealth of knowledge out there and the vendors that are willing to meet with you. Believe it or not, one of the first things we did was to attend a couple conferences just like this one as part of our info gathering phase. We did that in parallel to much of what I already talked to you about. And by doing so, we were then able to kind of gather a short list of companies we wanted to talk to and learn more about. Sitting within a large company certainly has its advantages, and one of them is having a corporate support team. So we tapped our procurement group to help facilitate this effort. Working with them, we were able to continue our initial assessment of the dam environment using industry surveys and data sets. We then selected about 10 vendors to reach out to, and we were on our way. The first step, though, was to solicit interest by sending out our business requirements to ensure their platform could support our needs. And to do this, we leveraged a standardized approach and centralized vetting tool through our procurement group. Internally, this allowed our various groups across the company to assess responses from each vendor without bias. And clarifying questions, well, those were sent out to all vendors at the same time. And over the course of a couple months, we were able to significantly filter things down to a manageable list. There were many factors the team considered. However, 5 of them differentiated our top 3 vendors from the rest of the pack. We were then able to filter even further down and make our final decision. One very important note here about our assessment process that I really wanted to call out was that we took time during this phase to conduct sandbox testing with our top 3 choices. This ended up taking much longer than we anticipated, but it was well worth it, especially from a systems administrator's perspective. Because when we made our final decision, this clarified for us which tool we felt most comfortable moving to. However, I also must note here that it still wasn't an easy decision by any means. Each tool we looked at had many positive traits, so I can confidently say that there's a tool out there that will meet your specific needs. Okay, implementation. This is where the rubber meets the road. We knew that once we selected a tool, our stakeholders across the company would be itching to jump right in. Thankfully, our new vendor was experienced with rolling their tool out within large organizations, so we were able to build our approach together. Full disclosure here, though, this is a stage of our journey that we're currently in. Lots of work is still going on behind the scenes with our vendor and with our IT group to ensure our rollout goes as smoothly as possible. That said, I can give you a high-level overview of how we're approaching it, but please note this visual right here, this is for illustrative purposes only. There are many more steps involved here, but I wanted to give you a sense for the comprehensive planning and prep work needed before we even started to ingest our assets. One important piece of this prep work was fairly simple. It was spending time getting to know our implementation team. They're a great core team who we've met with at least once a week to review progress and status from the very beginning. I can't emphasize this enough. I highly recommend partnering closely and staying tightly connected throughout. Now, with that core team leading the charge, we were able to break up our implementation into 4 main phases, as you can see here. At this point, we're getting really excited because we can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're currently in phase 3 of our rollout. We're focusing on some tech deployment with our IT group internally, as well as starting to ingest assets. Once that's complete, we'll begin mapping our metadata ahead of our core user training and eventual rollout. But it's definitely not a set it and forget it mindset by any means. In the second half of the year, we plan to increase our user base and evolve our integrations to both help with content management and, of course, streamline our process flows. From there, once we have some experience under our belt, we'll build out our 2022 roadmap, which will likely include more integrations. Speaking of, I want to spend the last few minutes talking about how our DAM fits into the future state of our tech ecosystem. If you remember back to our growth as an in-house agency, we've grown a lot over the last 6 years or so. In about 2016, we were well on our way within a pretty big upswing. And because of that, we had also implemented a ton of change and to our processes and the tools that we were using. And the group was feeling it. So we decided to conduct a review of how our tech matched up to our processes. And this is what it looked like. Each different color in this view corresponds to a different tool or app that we're using at the time. And keep in mind, there may have only been 1 or 2 of these that had some partial connectivity. So it was at that point we decided we needed to take more of a strategic approach to our evolution. So we mapped out what we thought our future ecosystem could look like and how it should look like, greatly simplified. Our goal is to get our teams to work in as few tools as they can to do their work. But we know it won't be enough to just reduce the tools we use. We need to find ways to integrate since each job role requires different tools. That way PMs can spend their time in our work management tool and our creatives can really stay within their creative development tools. And that's where our new enterprise DAM fits in. We want our DAM to be the central hub that connects all of our content, to each of these areas. And if we can shave off 5 to 10 minutes a day on each project, that starts to add up quickly, freeing up resources so productivity increases. And risk of something going wrong within the set of manual processes, well, that decreases. This is the key backbone of setting ourselves up to successfully manage the growth of content moving forward. And of course, this approach can also help set a good baseline for our Liberty counterparts in other parts of the world as they scale their marketing efforts as well. So that's where we're at in our journey to the DAM. In closing, if you remember anything from our journey, I'd recommend this. Before venturing too far, take the time to understand your current state and determine if your current infrastructure can support a change like this. If you're missing key pieces, I'd suggest trying to set that up first. Put pen to paper and document your high-level true north. What goals are you trying to accomplish? What specific processes or operating metrics are you looking to improve upon? If possible, build a working team across the impacted areas and leverage internal support to help facilitate, especially if you're in a large organization. And finally, if the vendor you've selected views itself as being a strategic partner, leverage their expertise. They've probably gone through an implementation or two. I think that if you put the right level of focus behind these things, it can only help you on your journey to the DAM. So that's all I have today. I really hope you guys are able to take something away and apply it to your specific journey. Thank you so much. John, I don't know if there's Any questions that might have come up from the group at this point?
Just gonna start my video. There you go.
I'll stop my sharing here.
There you go. There you go.
I'm on the big screen.
You're on the big screen. Well done, Michael. That was an excellent, what a great inspirational way to start the day. I've taken a few notes that I want to comment to you. So yeah, this is the time, everyone, to go to that section of your screen and start asking the questions for Michael. And what I'll be doing is I'm going to be watching my second screen here. And as the questions come up, I'm going to then just start forwarding over to Michael. Michael, a few things I want to say. There's a few quotes that I'm going to use going forward. I love this. Change comes in all forms. Is that not the truth? I mean, as in these times that we live in, let alone in all our times, the ability to respond and acknowledge that change is coming in many different ways, and it can come with the people, the process, or the technology. I thought that was a very astute comment that you made, and I think that's something. The other two things I want to say, I think two keywords for this year are integrated and connected. I love the way that you have forced that back to the community, saying, are we able to start thinking about, are you integrated or connected? Now, my question for you, when you were starting your DAM journey, did those things come up because of your starting your journey, or were the ideas of being integrated and connected? Was that happening prior to your DAM journey?
Yeah, great question. So we've, for the past 4 or 5 years, we've been thinking about, like I said, we did that assessment in like 2016. We had a vision that we wanted to have that connectivity, that integration, but we knew it was going to take a while to get there because of where we were starting from. The enterprise DAM was a thought way down the road. I mean, because we had storage, we had processes in place to do these things, but we didn't have like the future state of, hey, we need to do this. It wasn't until we said, okay, we actually need a digital asset manager. We need someone who's actually thinking about this, because people had it as little pieces, of their roles and responsibilities. So it wasn't great. So once we brought on and we're able to fill that role, we started thinking more strategically about, okay, hey, we should do this differently. And we can't just do it differently with ourselves. We have to reach across the entire enterprise, because if we just did it locally, I mean, we're missing the boat for a lot of things. I mean, expense wise for sure, but then just processes and sharing and just effectiveness overall. So it wasn't part of our initial journey. So to answer your question, it wasn't part of our initial thought. Integration was, but then once we got to the end, we already had that as like, well, we want to integrate, so let's make it happen.
Yeah. And I loved your slide when you talked about your roadmap. I mean, no pun intended with the journey analogy, but you're really sort of identifying, know your limitations. What did you know? What did you know from the past? That's amazing advice to give to attendees, because then they can be able to go, that's a good thing. Know what you can and cannot do, but know what needs to get done to help you then initiate that journey going forward. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I think we stumbled a little bit. I mean, it definitely wasn't a perfect journey, right? I mean, I think I mentioned that a few times in there, but as we were going, we definitely kept it top of mind that, hey, we're not the experts here. We don't have a ton of experience with this area. So let's just try to figure out, let's try to reach out and get as much information as possible. I think I mentioned Katrina probably attended a couple DAM conferences. She might have went to a couple more, listened to Teresa and some of her courses that she's done, so we were gathering as much information as we could so we could put together that strategy. But it was really, it's looking in the mirror. It's being able to be confident enough to say, wait a minute, we don't know everything. Let's look in the mirror. Let's figure out what our current state is and how do we set ourselves up and put the right pieces in place so we get to our future state.
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy thing to look into mirror. I like the way you say that. We've got a whole bunch of questions for you. One last thing I want to say, when you showed your infrastructure upgrade slide and you gave shout outs to each individual's the members and the people part of your team, just want to say, well done you. That's great. I think we often just forget sometimes of all the other partners and the people that are playing a part on our DAM journey. So, today everyone go thank your DAM people, because we're all on that DAM journey together, right? So yes. Well done on that slide. That was a nice little shout out to your team. Love it. That's great. All right. Cool. Michael LaBerge, you're a popular man. We have got some things to ask you. The questions are coming through. Question number one from Anonymous. Hello, Anonymous. Have a great day, Anonymous. Great presentation. However, how did you get your executive buy-in on funding the DAM?
Ooh.
Good question.
Ooh. Yeah, that's $1 million question, right? $1 billion question, however you want to say it. Yeah. Well, we did. So like back to what I was saying in the presentation, where we met with so many people and so many of our partners across the company to see what they needed. What we also did was we took a step back, looking in the mirror, right? Say, how much are we currently spending? What are we currently using it for? Where are our gaps? We did a cost benefit analysis. We also did a gap analysis to figure out what we really needed to do. And by bringing that all together, we could show the leadership team to say, hey, we have some opportunity here. So what do you think? And with all the support of all the other teams that we worked with across the organization, it was kind of a no-brainer to at least start exploring, right? I mean, we had to go through that whole process to really get that final approval, but to get that first support from them to say, yeah, you should definitely look into this was very valuable.
Awesome. And the role of good damn champions can never be not a good thing going forward, right? We
Right.
always need good damn champions.
Right.
Another, again, the questions are coming in for you. Great question here from Abby Sorrow. Michael, do you believe that you have to have a lot of technical experience to roll out a dam? Were you surprised at how long rollout has taken? And was there ever a time when you thought it was taking too long or it just wasn't going to work? Interesting, good questions. So DAM, do you need that technical experience? Again, it goes back to your integrated, connected, your team, your DAM team slide, but how do you respond to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't talk about how long it took during the discovery phase and the exploration and all of that. That took a lot longer than what we thought. I think I mentioned it took a long time, but that's probably the part where if I was to go back, I would say, wow, we should really plan for a longer time, because when we first started reaching out to vendors to learn a little bit more, we were like, hey, yeah, we want something implemented in like 4 months. I think I might have got laughed at one point when I said that. So I figured we were probably not, we probably didn't have the right expectations for how long it was going to take. But I mean, going through it, I mean, it makes sense for all the complexities that you need to consider, all like, especially connecting the dots across our entire company, right? I think the first question was about technical knowledge. You need to understand, right? Like, okay, so I need to do, and when I say technical knowledge, I mean like IT, I guess you could have that, but also technical knowledge for like damn librarian type stuff, right? Like organization of your metadata and all of that. I mean, there's a ton, there's different sides of the coin there. Making sure you have a good cross reference of those or mixture of those key attributes, I think is really important to a successful rollout. I mean, there's consultants out there too that you can leverage. They can give you a lot of good information as well. And the vendor that you pick, they can also help significantly, like I was mentioning earlier. So I think there's there are all those different places. I think just if you don't think you have the right technical prowess, I guess, to start, just start doing some reading, start doing some research, and then you can start really understanding and assessing where you might fall on that maturity scale. And you can figure out, what do I need to pull in to get me to where I need to be to start rolling this out.
Right, and you mentioned it during your keynote address about having attended Henry Stewart events in the past or other sort of conferences. That's the greatest place to learn. You're going to meet fellow people doing it. And even like today, we're seeing people in various degrees of their damn journeys, where they are on their roadmaps. That's a great learning opportunity to be like, so, you know, the questions that you're being asked right now are very valuable for other people at the other end. Michael, really quickly, as a quick follow-up to that one, how are you measuring your success when you do the role? Good question.
Yeah, very good question. So I mean, there's different ways you can measure the success. I mean, if we go back to that prior question, success of like the speed of rollout. If you start there, we're taking the approach of we want to put it in, and we want to put it in right. So we don't want to rush. We don't want to get it in, because I mean, we've had other tech that we've implemented in the past where we rolled out and we didn't have great adoption. So I don't want to say it was a throwaway, but it was challenging to get going, and we might not have got the ROI as quickly as we might have if we would have done it right. So from a speed standpoint, we're not really saying, oh, we need to implement in 6 months or in 12 months, whatever it is, to say we need to get it in here. If we're looking at the other side, though, which may be where the question's coming from, which is like, hey, okay, we're using assets, we have them in market. How are we? What's our ROI on the big picture? We're still in the process of really putting together all of those things. So I wish I could tell you, yeah, it's this metric, this one that we know. So we're not there yet, but we know that as we continue to expand our user base and connectivity with all these teams, those are going to be the key metrics that we say, okay, in order to get here, we need to do this, right? But we needed our base as a starting point to even venture into those conversations. So so again, we've partnered with a great vendor, and we're really looking forward to moving forward and getting those things.
We'll have to invite you back next year, so you can give us an update on that roadmap, right?
Yeah, I'll come on back. Yes.
And with good reporting and analytics, you can get those good feedback to show what's going on. All right,
Yes.
another great question from Samantha. In terms of rolling out to the users, do you plan to open it up to everyone or to a smaller group at first? Good question.
Yeah, very good question. So, so if you asked Katrina, our digital asset manager, if you asked her at the beginning where my mind was at, what I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, everyone, just give it to everyone right away. And it's like, oh, that might be overstepping maybe where we start. So I think the way that I've gone kind of back and forth on that over time, but I think where we are now is we're going to start our initial rollout with a core group of like power users, basically our digital asset management team, the people who are doing that stuff, and our marketing partners, that sort of thing. But shortly after, we're planning on rolling it out to portions of the database to the people who need certain things like brand assets and those types of things, even our sales reps in the field who might need logos or icons or that sort of thing. So we're planning out and setting up our infrastructure within the DAM to allow for that to parse out what, assets can go to who, and what part of our organization will have access to certain slices of the pie.
Awesome. We've got about 5 minutes left-ish, and the questions keep on coming. This is a great one from Matthew. All right, Matt. Who manages metadata on your content? The metadata questions. And is there expectations on your users to input data on their uploads? So let's talk a little bit here about the metadata. Who is managing that for you at Liberty Mutual?
Yeah, so like I was talking, very good question. So we have a little bit of a decentralized makeup, like I was talking about, where we have multiple creative and marketing teams across the organization. So each one of those areas will manage their own metadata and content, right? But we will have an overarching kind of standard to say, okay, these are the types of things that we should have, but it can change based off of the individual markets that are using it. And even like our corporate archives team, who they have a totally different need. So starting there, then each team has their own resources to do that. So we on our team, we have a digital asset manager, like I've mentioned before. She will be responsible for uploading. Now, one of the things that I'm really excited about is starting to learn more about the AI, right? The tools when you're uploading, right? When you're uploading the files, like what can be tagged automatically without causing headaches down the road. So we're going to start slowly there, but we want to learn. We want the tool to learn. We want to get there. But I think for the time to starting point, we're going to rely a lot on our digital asset manager doing a lot of stuff with the partners, providing the business content or content.
Awesome. Yeah, metadata is important to have to go it's like the road for your journey. Metadata is a good thing to have there. I'm going to try to get through two quick other questions here. Another one from Abby. All right, with all the integrations and reduction in tools, are there situations where you say the DAM actually isn't best for X? Interesting question.
I don't think I can answer that yet because we haven't implemented it yet.
It's still in play, right? The whole journey.
Yeah, but it's a good question. So, yeah, I mean, I think to answer initially, my gut reaction to that would be, and we have thought about this a little bit, right? But like your creative working files, like that's one of the areas where it's like we might not save that up there. We know that might not be a part to connect and put up there because we want to use our creative development tools or what other apps we have in place. That'd be one of the things. The other thing too is when we're looking about reducing the technology and connecting them. If you can store one of those files, let's just say an asset, right, in one of the tools, and it's connected, which would be the DAM, connected to our work management tool and our creative development tools, you don't have to worry about continuing like moving that around because you're just managing it within the other tools connected to it. So I don't know if that answers your question, Abby, I think it was, but I tried. Sorry.
Maybe in the Meet the Speaker Roundtable, there might be more questions about that. Let's try and do one more question. This is from Jeff. Have you integrated any systems with your DAM, or do you plan to do so?
Yeah, so we have a large listing of technology that we want to integrate. Our project management, our work management tool, we definitely want to integrate. Our creative development tools, we definitely want to. So, like I was mentioning before, our creative folks can just stay in their creative development tools and just access there. So they don't have to go onto our server or to somewhere else, to gather them, bring them onto their desktop. We want them to be able to work in their creative development tools. So we haven't done anything yet. We're in the process. Okay. But yeah, we have probably a list of 10 to 15 and we're just, we're going to do that over time, like I was mentioning. We have a core implementation, right, to start, probably with a few basic ones or a couple basic ones, and then working with our vendor to, if they don't already have integrations set up, to work with them to get those things set up in the future.
So that ends this session. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming and thanking Michael for this wonderful presentation to kick off the day for us all.